and rules and have been given information about the season, they are more likely to support you and your assistant coaches. Keep them informed not only at the parent meeting but all season long through phone calls, additional meetings, and newsletters. Make the season a social event for the parents as well as the kids. Do all this and you won't have parent problems, you will have parent support.
Help parents realize there's a big difference between encouraging their child and pressuring their child to succeed, between determination and obsession. Parents must support their children's coaches. They hurt their own kids when they undermine the coach. Parents must support the coach's authority. Kids want to please both coaches and parents. If there is division between these two groups, kids don't know whom to please. Include parents who are willing to be involved in your program. They can help with a group during practice, drive kids to games, or bring refreshments. They have a vested interest and are primarily responsible to raise their own kids. Work together with them.
It's easy for anyone dealing with kids to say they don't want to be a role model and refuse the role. The reality is that you don't have any choice. The majority of all those professionals may not remember all their coaches, but most will remember their first youth coach. All kids look up to their coaches and try to emulate them. Truth is that kids will do for coaches what they won't do for parents, what they won't do for other kids, and what they won't do for anyone. Think about it. What a wonderful, unique opportunity you have. You represent a figure that can positively influence a child for life. And you may be the only person in the position to do just that. That's quite a responsibility. As a responsible leader, by your words and actions, you can shape children's social skills, how they treat others, how they handle winning and losing, and how they relate to those in positions of authority.
As coaches, we will be role models. Make no mistake, as volunteer coaches, all eyes are upon you. The players watch you, the referees, the parents, other coaches, and it's important to feel that and take pride in it. Without you, very often these programs don't exist, but it's important for us to all understand why we're there. These children need self-worth, self-confidence, self-discipline. They need to have fun. And if we react in a way that's negative to mistakes or to referees, for instance, they pick up on that. The children are open slates. They will learn what we show them. So it's important. For instance, if you watch a professional game and you see me racing up and down the sidelines or speaking to an official, that's not your example. The kids are much more important, and what you're doing with them is much more important than what I do. Those kids are our future. And when referees make calls, those kids have to understand that that's life. It's not always fair. It's the way it is. We deal with it and we move on. And your approach will be very important. When children make mistakes, they can't see disgust in your face. They've got to see an honest effort to improve them and a love that makes them want to come back and play again. Your relationship with the parents of these players is very important. You have to have the confidence of those parents so that they're not yelling and screaming and coaching their kids while the game is going on. They've got to understand that you're in charge during that period, and it's up to each of you to establish that relationship. So let's make this fun and a great learning experience for the children, and never forget that we are role models.
Your words and actions are even more important when they relate to drugs, alcohol, and tobacco. If you smoke, drink, or use drugs around children, you send a loud message that it is okay for them to use the substances too. To be a good role model, you can never let kids see you even with a pack of cigarettes in your pocket. Let's take this one step further. Why not talk to your players about the harm drugs, alcohol, and tobacco can do to your body? The Kids Sports Network has a booklet that contains a series of 8 short lessons you can use to help you discuss substance abuse with your players each week. I encourage you to call KSN and ask how you can obtain this pamphlet. You have a unique opportunity to influence your players well beyond the sport you are coaching. Take advantage of it by addressing social issues with them. Trust me, your players will listen and you will make a difference.
Kids need positive role models. Adults have much responsibility to set a good example. You can't give what you don't have. Coach, you're a role model, for better or for worse. If we tell kids to avoid alcohol, tobacco, profanity, and rebellion against authorities, we must set the example. Your authority comes from you being under authority. Be yourself. Don't try to be like a professional coach you see on television. Kids can spot a phony a mile away, and they'll respect you for being you.
You may not want to think about it, but child abuse does sometimes occur in youth sports, and therefore we need to spend a little time defining and discussing the subject. First, the general definitions of 4 of the most common types of abuse: yelling, screaming, swearing, and berating the child for not performing as directed; ignoring a child, keeping him or her on the bench for making a mistake, or simply making nonverbal gestures that will make the child feel inferior; grabbing, hitting, jerking, pushing a child to make her behave in a way you want her to behave; inappropriate touch, or fondling of a child's bottom or other private parts, or actual attempt to lure a child into sexual activity. In a sports environment, we need to look at child abuse in 3 ways. First, are you doing things that could be interpreted as abusive? Screaming at a player for making an error, grabbing him by the arm and jerking him off the field, and then forcing him to sit at the end of the bench without playing again, are all examples of verbal, physical, and emotional abuse. Coaches must be sensitive to this type of behavior and further must avoid inappropriate touch. Second, have you observed any marks on a child's body or an unusually withdrawn behavior that might indicate that the child has been abused at home? If you do observe this, it is your legal obligation by law to report this suspected abuse. Numbers to call to report suspected child abuse are contained in your local phone book. In most cases, the name of the person reporting the abuse is protected and not revealed to the child's parents or the public in general. Finally, you have a special responsibility to let your parents know that child molesters and pedophiles are drawn to youth sports. These predators know that hundreds of children are congregated in big athletic complexes. Sometimes their victims are kids not on teams, but brothers and sisters who are left unsupervised by parents who are watching the game.
It is very important for coaches to understand what child abuse and neglect is. There is many forms of abuse that take place out there, not only on the field and on game day, but also during practice. And it's very important because a lot of this abuse that takes place, coaches are not even aware. It might be the fact that some of these coaches were brought up in a certain way that what they're doing out there has, to them, it appears to be okay. It's all right for them to do that. So we need to educate coaches, we need to educate parents, we need to educate parent coaches, because that's what we have most of out there.
Abuse can be verbal, physical, sexual, or emotional. Avoid one-on-one situations where anyone could accuse you of impropriety. No suggestive touches. Never allow anyone to assist you who has any history of child molestation or abuse. Insist the league do a background check of all coaches. Misdeeds can be forgiven, but the consequences of trust lost must remain. Help educate parents about proper supervision of their children. Don't allow parents to turn you into a babysitter.
As coaches, our number one responsibility is the safety of our children. If for any reason, by doing something improperly or failing to do something, you cause an injury, you may be found negligent. Common sense comes into play, but you can save yourself headaches and real legal problems if you put together a legal game plan. Here are some of the important tips to help you keep from legal problems. Keep an informal record of important events or activities that occur. For example, if an incident occurs during a game, jot down the circumstances as soon as you are able. Your notes will help you in the event that you have to recall what happened at a later date, especially if it relates to an injury. Before every practice and game, check the field or court to make sure it's safe. Look for broken glass, wet areas, slippery surfaces, broken sprinkler heads, and equipment improperly installed or loose. Make sure all equipment